The first human who experienced grief had no word for death, no religion, no heaven, no funeral. Just a body that should have been forgotten, but they couldn't walk away. And that single moment may have changed humanity forever.
For millions of years before us, animals died the same way they always had. The body stops, the group moves on. No pause, no ceremony, no looking back. That's what every other species does, and for a long time, our ancestors did the same. But then, something shifted. Nobody knows exactly when, nobody knows exactly where, but at some point, one human looked at a dead body and couldn't just walk away. That hesitation, that one moment of not being able to leave, was the most human thing that had ever happened on Earth. Because it meant something had changed inside the brain, something that no other animal had ever experienced. The understanding that the person lying there was gone, not sleeping, not injured, gone in a way that was permanent. And that realization hit like a physical blow. Grief had just entered the world.
Here's something researchers discovered that changes everything. Grief is not an emotion. Not exactly. Grief is a biological response to the loss of someone your survival depended on. In a group of 20 to 50 people, every single member mattered. The hunter who died, that's fewer calories for everyone. The elder who died, that's decades of knowledge gone overnight. The mother who died, that's children who may not survive the next winter. Death in a small tribe wasn't just personal loss, it was a survival crisis, and the brain responded accordingly. Loss of appetite, inability to sleep, withdrawal from the group. What we call grief is the body recognizing that something essential to its survival has been permanently removed. Researchers studying grief across every known human culture found one thing completely consistent. Every culture, every society, every time period. Humans refuse to treat their dead like garbage. They always do something.
In 1908, archaeologists excavating a cave in La Chapelle-aux-Sens in France found something that stopped them completely. A Neanderthal skeleton, deliberately placed in a shallow pit, curled in a fetal position, with food remains and tools arranged around the body. This burial was 60,000 years old. Neanderthals, who we spent centuries calling primitive, were burying their dead with care and intention long before modern humans arrived in Europe. And it gets more profound. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, researchers found a Neanderthal burial site where pollen analysis suggested flowers had been placed on the body. Flowers, 60,000 years ago. Someone walked into a field, picked flowers, and laid them on the body of someone they had lost. That gesture, that specific, tender, completely impractical gesture, tells us something extraordinary. These were not primitive creatures managing a biological inconvenience. These were people who loved someone and needed that love to mean something even after the person was gone. Here's the question that haunted every ancient human who ever lost someone. Where did they go? The body was still there, but the person, the voice, the warmth, the presence, was gone. Where? Modern humans have religion to answer that question. Ancient humans had to figure it out themselves, and what they figured out was surprisingly consistent across cultures that had never met each other. Something continues. Researchers studying the oldest known belief systems found one idea appearing again and again across every continent in cultures completely isolated from each other. The dead don't fully leave. They exist somewhere nearby, watching, influencing, present in some form. This wasn't organized religion. This was the human brain refusing to accept that someone it loved could simply stop existing. Because here's what grief does to the brain. In the weeks after losing someone close, the brain continues to generate expectations of their presence. You hear a sound and think, that's them. You have an impulse to tell them something. You turn to say something to someone who isn't there. This is not weakness. This is the brain still running the survival software that included that person. Ancient humans experienced the same thing, and they interpreted it the only way they could. They're still here. I can still feel them. They haven't fully left. That interpretation became the foundation of every spiritual belief system in human history. Here's what changed everything about how ancient humans handled death. They didn't do it alone. In a group of 20 to 50 people, when someone died, everyone stopped. Not because there was a rule, because the grief was collective. Everyone had hunted with that person, slept near that person, shared food with that person. The loss belonged to everyone. And researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer mourning rituals have found something that makes perfect sense in hindsight. Collective mourning is physically healing. When humans grieve together, cortisol levels drop. Oxytocin, the bonding chemical, increases. The body literally recovers faster from grief when it's shared. Ancient humans didn't know the neuroscience, but they knew instinctively that sitting together, crying together, remembering together, made the unbearable slightly more bearable. That circle of grieving people around a fire, telling stories about someone they had lost, was the first funeral in human history and the first therapy session at the same time.
Here's the part nobody expects. Death made ancient humans smarter. Not metaphorically, literally. When someone in the group died, especially an elder, their knowledge died with them. Migration routes, medicinal plants, hunting techniques, survival information that had taken decades to accumulate, gone overnight. And ancient humans felt that loss in the most practical, immediate way possible. The next winter was harder. The next hunt was less successful. The next illness killed someone it might not have if the elder had still been there. Death taught ancient humans that knowledge had to be shared before it was lost, that stories had to be told before the person who carried them was gone. This is why elders became sacred in ancient cultures, not just respected, sacred, because they carried irreplaceable information in a world with no other way to store it. And this is why the dead were spoken about, remembered, kept present in the group's conversation long after they were gone. It wasn't just grief, it was preservation. Keeping the dead alive in memory was how ancient humans kept their knowledge alive in a world with no books, no writing, no other way to remember. Tonight, somewhere in the world, someone is sitting beside a body, someone they loved, someone who was there yesterday and isn't today. And they're feeling something so large, so physical, so complete.